It's showtime.
What's up, good people? And welcome to the Frank Harris Show, the biggest, the baddest, the best, and the most provocative show on earth. A lot of interesting topics to talk about today. I want to talk about the Drake, DeMar DeRozan, Kendrick Lamar, I guess his beef, if you want to call it that. Well, my phone is blowing up. I want to talk about when do reporters cross the line? Reporters cross the line. We got the Joel Embiid issue. We got the Kevin Durant, Stephen A. Smith issue. I want to talk a little bit about college football. I want to talk a little bit about the NBA. But let's kick it off right out the gate with the Drake dynamic. Drake dynamic. So the Toronto Raptors decided to retire their first number ever. The number was half man, half amazing, the great Hall of Famer Vince Carter. Not sure that I believe that his jersey should have been retired with Toronto because they didn't win enough when he was there. That being said, he was a great player. Okay. Drake was there. Drake was in the building, as Drake is a huge ambassador for the Raptors. He's the number one ambassador, global ambassador, has a great, position with the organization. Okay. Obviously, he was there. He was on hand. He was celebrating the induction of Vince Carter's number up in the rafters, raised up to the rafters. And afterwards, they interviewed Drake afterwards. Well, first, before I get into afterwards, during the game, Drake and his guy Chubbs, they were menacing DeMar DeRozan. Ironically, when they put up Vince Carter's jersey, DeMar DeRozan, who now currently plays for the Sacramento Kings, happened to be in the building. Okay. Now, if you recall, DeMar DeRozan played for the Toronto Raptors, and he was a phenomenal player for the Toronto Raptors as well. Now, when he was in Toronto, he and Drake were seemingly very close. DeMar DeRozan, you see in interviews, spoke about how Drake was his brother. They seemed to have, a kinship bond while he was in Toronto, and he seemingly counted Drake as a very good friend, and Drake counted him as a very good friend. Okay, so let's get that background squared away. So DeMar DeRozan played for the Raptors, great friend with Drake. Then comes the beef. Drake, Kendrick Lamar. Now, as DeMar DeRozan played for the Raptors, is very close with Drake. DeMar DeRozan's from LA. DeMar DeRozan's from Compton. Kendrick Lamar's from Compton. Seemingly, he had a great relationship with Kendrick Lamar as well. This is the crib for him. Everybody loves DeMar DeRozan in LA. He's one of LA's own. So when Kendrick Lamar did the They Not Like Us video, he wanted to put all of the LA fixtures in the video. They were his boys. And obviously one of those fixtures was DeMar DeRozan. Now, DeMar is in the video. DeMar afterwards was kind of like, yeah, I was in the video, but I'm kind of neutral. But Drake felt like he crossed the line. You're supposed to be my boy. You jumped in this video that's dissing me. It's the biggest song of the year. It's the biggest diss of the year. It's a big issue. Drake now feels like his boy, his brother, okay, betrayed him and was disloyal. So Drake said after the induction, shout out to Vince Carter. Vince Carter deserved to get his number retired. But if you in Toronto and you the Raptors ever try to put DeMar DeRozan's jersey in the Raptors, I will climb up there myself and pull it down. Drake said it on TV in Canada. He called him a goof. He called DeMar DeRozan a goof, a clown, was very disrespectful. During the game, he was disrespectful. After the game, he was disrespectful. Okay? Drake felt like he crossed the line. So first of all, fair or foul? I need you guys to tell me. Fair or foul? Should DeMar DeRozan have been in the video if he's supposed to be great friends with Drake and he also is great friends with Kendrick Lamar? Should he have stayed neutral, right? Fair or foul? Question for you, okay? Now, from an organizational perspective, if you're the Toronto Raptors, DeMar DeRozan is he absolutely deserves. Probably if you retire Vince Carter's jersey, he probably should retire DeMar DeRozan's jersey, right? He's an all-time great Raptor, right? The three best, in my opinion, are Carter, DeRozan, and Kyle Lowry, right? Those are the three jerseys that you assume will have to be retired, okay? So now, if you are the Raptors, what do? You have Toronto's favorite celebrity, Drake, who is very intricately involved with the organization of the Raptors as a global ambassador, right? And you have a great player for you. And Drake says you don't put his jersey up, or it's going to be an issue, okay? What do the Raptors do? Do the Raptors put the guy's jersey up no matter what Drake thinks, or do the Raptors honor Drake's request? Right? It's an interesting dynamic. A guy deserves to get his jersey up. So anyway, after the game, they told DeMar DeRozan what Drake said, and DeMar's response was something like, "Yeah, I like to see him do that." You know, he kind of like brushed it off. "I would like to see him do that. You know, it's a high climb up there to go pull a jersey down." Like he said something like that, and then walked out the press conference. So clearly, he didn't want to engage so much in the dynamic, and he exited the press conference. Now, what's going to happen here? Okay, DeRozan crossed the line for Drake. Is done. Should the Toronto Raptors retire DeRozan's jersey? Or, listen, celebrity fades. Say 5-10 years from now, if they want to retire DeMar DeRozan's jersey, maybe Drake is no longer the Drake as we know it. Celebrity fades, and then they just put the jersey up, and they don't listen to Drake, and Drake is not as influential or important to the Toronto Raptors and the organization. Or do they honor Drake's wishes and not put the jersey of DeMar DeRozan's in the Raptors rafters? I like the way that rhymes. So anyway, crazy dynamic, you know, hip hop, basketball, beef intertwined. Let's see what happens in this dynamic. And by the way, let me just add this last piece. DeMar DeRozan lives in LA, still does, spends his time in LA, probably will live the rest of his life in LA. So maybe DeMar DeRozan felt like Toronto was in my past. I had great years in Toronto, but LA is home, LA is the crib, and this is where I'll spend the rest of my life. So my allegiance has to lie in LA. Maybe that's what he thought. Fair foul. You let me know. Now, switching gears. Big topic. And this is something that's gone on for years and years and years and years. Okay. When do people of the press, members of the press, cross the line as it relates to players? Okay. And so this was front and center. Joel Embiid had an exchange with a reporter. The reporter put out a story in which he referenced Joel Embiid's brother who fatally died in a car accident and his son who's named after that brother. And the reporter said that Joel Embiid, and I'm paraphrasing, not quoting, paraphrasing. He said, in essence, Joel Embiid talks about playing for the legacy of his brother and his son, but he's never available, takes off games, doesn't play injured, doesn't act as if he's a franchise player, and that he's playing for the legacy of his brother and his son. Okay? Joel Embiid took offense to what the reporter wrote and approached him and told him, keep my son and my brother's name out of your mouth. Okay? And then he pushed the reporter as well. So I think this is an important piece too. He pushed the reporter as well. So I think that's important to note. He put his hands on the reporter. So let me tell you my thoughts about this. Joel Embiid is a dog on the court. When I say a dog, the guy doesn't play half of the time. He's played probably half of the games since he's been a part of the organization. He's always hurt. The guy never, and by the way, you know, guys get hurt, but also he doesn't help himself because he always comes into training camp out of shape. The guy's not in basketball shape. And if you look at it pound for pound, Joel Embiid is supposed to be the best player in the NBA. Okay? The guy's 7 feet tall. He can hit he scored all three levels. He can hit the three, scoring the mid-range, scoring the post, at the basket, great move, put the ball on the floor. He can pass. He can dominate a game on the defensive side. Pound for pound, Joel Embiid is underachieving. He's an underachiever. He should be the best player in the NFL. But his body's not in shape, okay? The guy, I guess he plays injured sometimes, but people feel like he doesn't play through injury enough, okay? And he's been an albatross, some people feel, around the neck of the Philadelphia 76ers. I do feel like, and by the way, he didn't help his cause when he came out earlier this season, right? Early in the season and said, for the rest of my career, I will never play in another back-to-back, probably, which is crazy, by the way. People come to work every day, okay? You know, you got people working 9 to 5s all around this country, all around the world, punching the clock every day and coming to work. And for this guy to say, for the rest of my career, I'm never playing a back-to-back when that's part of the job, it's crazy, it's ludicrous, it's unconscionable that a guy would say something like that. Unconscionable. And by the way, should he have played in the Olympics is another question, because he's playing in the Olympics, playing some minutes, starting, clearly hurt, clearly out of shape, and not getting himself prepared for the season and for the team that's paying him so much money, all right, to win for the organization, right? And this becomes a bigger issue because the organization, which I don't understand, is, and Joel and B they've come up with a plan to manage his injury for the playoffs. First of all, we're in the beginning of the season. Managing his injuries or managing his health for the playoffs, we just starting the season. You may not get to the playoffs if you don't play the guy number one, or you may get a horrible seed, so you play in the Boston Celtics in the first round, and you have no chance of winning if that happens either. So managing a guy now, I mean, we're not even 70 games in, and you're making that determination, 78 games into an 82-game season. You talk about monitoring the guy's minutes from game one, right? For the future, for the playoffs, 82 games from now? Crazy. That being the case, the reporter crossed the line, unequivocally. Embiid is a dog, in my opinion, right? Say he's not coming to work in back-to-backs, all of that, right? He should be a much better player, underachiever, all of that, I feel. And by the way, I think he should be the best player in the NBA from a skill perspective. That being the case, the reporter absolutely crossed the line. The reporter crossed the line, okay? And I'm not here to sugarcoat this. We're going to keep it real. Why would you bring the man's brother who passed away fatally and his son into any kind of reporting or dynamic? That is unacceptable. That is unbelievable. And that can absolutely not be excused. That being the case, then B shouldn't have put his hands on the man. Homeboy should have squared up, and they should have mixed it up. Because Joel Embiid can't put your hands on another man based upon that, right? Those weren't actionable words. There was no imminent threat. So Joel Embiid should have kept his hands to himself, okay? But that being the case, the reporter was wrong. Shame on you. Fair or foul, foul on the reporter. Now, secondly, on this note, we have another dynamic, okay? Stephen A. Smith said on his show or his podcast or somewhere, he questioned Kevin Durant's leadership. And Stephen A. Smith is extremely controversial. Some people like him, don't like him. He's a very compelling figure. And that's probably why, he's so popular. He's a compelling figure. That's why his show is very successful. He's bombastic. He's boisterous. The guy's very opinionated. And so he spoke about Kevin Durant. And then Kevin Durant then came out and said, who can listen to this clown? Paraphrasing again, this guy's a clown. Who listens to him? No one listens to the guy. I've never seen him in the locker room. I've never seen him, in locker rooms. I've never seen him, doing things behind the scenes at games, et cetera, et cetera. The guy's a clown. And that was his response, okay? Now, first of all, Kevin Durant is the most sensitive athlete in the history, in my opinion, of sports, right? And it's ironic. The guy, sometimes he responds to people via Twitter or via his socials on burner accounts. Like, he wouldn't even stand behind what he's saying. He has burner accounts, okay, to respond to people saying things about him, number one. Number two, bro, come on, man. Like, sometimes you may respond, but Kevin Durant, you're too sensitive, bro. You are maybe the greatest pure scorer ever to play the game. First ballot Hall of Famer, two-time NBA champion, two-time NBA championship MVP. You are too great of a player to be getting into these squabbles all the time with people. All right. Silly squabbles. And then what makes Kevin Durant look bad in this dynamic is two things. One is Kevin Durant has asked Stephen A. Smith to be a part of shows that he's produced through his company. he's had Stephen A. Smith be a part of things that he was doing, again, through his production company. And I guess, right, having Stephen A. Smith come on those environments from an expert basketball knowledge perspective. So how are you going to invite the man and say, I got a show, Stephen A. Smith, and I want to bring you, on a panel, or I want to have you be a part of a show that I'm producing, right, to give your opinion, and your knowledge as a basketball guy, but then say the guy's a clown, right? So he's not a clown when you invite him to do the things you want him to do, but when he speaks out against you and speaks facts, okay, the guy's a clown now. Kevin Durant, you're so foul, right, and out of line on this situation. It's crazy. It's egregious, okay? And your sensitivity is egregious. It's crazy, okay? Then Kevin Durant came out afterwards and said, well, why can these guys say something about us, but we can't say something back about them? But Kevin Durant, Stephen A's job is to commentate, to give his opinions about certain things. Your job is to play basketball, bro. Right. And obviously, if you feel like someone's wronged you, right, because I'm not a shut up and play basketball guy. You're a smart guy. You should be able to express yourself. But why do you keep getting in these back and forths all the time with everybody? I just don't understand it, man. Don't focus your energy on that. Hall of Fame player, great player, but you're killing your legacy. You're tarnishing so much because of your sensitivity, bro. It's unbelievable. So leave Stephen A alone. And by the way, I think Stephen A is so wrong with so many things, right? I think Stephen A can be a clown and a joke, and you can call him all those things that you want. But he's also smart. He's credible at the same time. But that's what his job is, bro. It's almost like when Michael Jordan got into a fight with Charles Barkley because Charles Barkley, as a commentator, said that Michael Jordan was a bad GM and he didn't know how to run an organization. He was a great player, but he wasn't as good running an organization. Michael Jordan felt that his friend shouldn't have said that. That was offensive, never spoke to Charles Barkley again. If that's right, that's according to Charles Barkley, right? When, same thing, all these guys are coming at Perkins right now, right? On Kendrick Perkins. When guys are commentators now, they have to be able to give their opinion, okay, and feel how they feel in front of the talking cameras without you guys being overly sensitive. That's their job. So anyway, in this dynamic, foul. Kevin Durant is foul. Stephen A. Smith is fair. Stop being so sensitive, Kevin Durant. Okay? Now, I wrote something down here. So, let me switch gears now. Right, I wrote something down, and I wanted to make sure I wrote a note to myself. I wanted to make sure I didn't forget about this. Okay, it took me a few days, right, to simmer down from the Yankees Dodgers World Series. I'm from New York. I'm a Yankee fan, diehard Yankee fan. Okay, Aaron Judge. You cannot ever be mentioned with the all-time greats, whether it be all-time great Yankees or all-time great players, because you're Mr. Regular Season, okay? Reggie Jackson, Mr. October. Aaron Judge, Mr. Regular Season. I don't want to hear anybody talking about Aaron Judge being the best player in the American League or the best player in baseball, because he's not. And let me tell you why. And I'm a Yankee fan, and I love Aaron Judge. But at the end of the day, you make your money in the playoffs. Well, you made your money already. But your name, your legacy, you got to show up when it matters. What makes great players great is they show up in the biggest moments. Aaron Judge, you're great during the regular season, and you shrink in the biggest moments. You shrink. I mean, you batted at 120, 150, whatever you batted in the playoffs this year. And not just in the World Series, in all of the playoffs, you didn't deliver. Atrocious. And this is something that's happened historically in your career. So you got to get it together. That's one. Judge, terrible, terrible, terrible. Two, Yankees, you didn't compete. The Dodgers were a better team on paper. The Dodgers were a better team, but the Yankees just didn't compete. You rolled over and you pretty much got swept. You should have got swept, okay? Aaron Boone got to go. Fundamental baseball, okay? Game 5, fundamental baseball, all right? 5th inning, Yankees up 5-0, 5 unearned run. Judge drops the ball. These are fundamentals. Garrett Cole does not cover first base, okay? The guy's safe, and this begins the spiral, okay, of 5 unearned runs. Bad fundamentals. And by the way, the Yankees have underachieved over and over and over and over again under Aaron Boone. And I get he hit the big home run years and years ago, and he's one of the, an iconic Yankee moment, but he has to go, okay? And Brian Cashman, it may be your time too, but I understand you like another son to the Steinbrenner family, so you'll keep your job, okay? But the Yankees have to do better. We need to get some more pitching, but the big guys have to show up. But let me just end it by saying this, okay? You better sign Juan Soto. Okay, Juan Soto is the best player on the Yankees. And I know it's going to come with a big price tag. And I know the young Steinbrenners are not like their dad was. Because George Steinbrenner would put that money out there. He brought the best players to New York. And that's why the Yankees have won so many World Series. And the Yankees are, one of the more prolific winning franchises in the history of any sport, right? But they've been a little cheaper, right? The brothers that run the Yankees have been a bit cheaper than their dad was. So the Soto price tag may be, $700 million went to Ohtani. The Soto price tag may be $600+ million, but you got to pay it. You got to pay because this guy is a generational player. He's a generational player, okay? He's the best player on the Yankees. The guy hits for power. The guy walks an incredible amount of times. He intimidates pitchers. He's great in the field. The guy's what you call a 5-tool player. Unbelievable. There's no way you can lose him. And the problem is this. I don't think he would even go to the Dodgers. The Dodgers have an embarrassment of riches already. Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, the great Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani. I mean, they have so many great players over there already. It's crazy. So I don't think that the Dodgers are a threat. The threat, the New York Mets, right? The New York Mets, your Civil War team. The other New York team, the Mets. Cohen, big pocketbook. Cohen is going to go out there and put that money on the table. And this was probably going to happen. The Yankees are going to come out here and put some little soft $450 to $500 million deal on the table. And the Mets are going to come and put $600 on the table and say, let's go, Soto. So listen, the Yankees, what you going to do? Steinbrenner family, what you going to do? You have to re-sign Soto. That's the only way the Yankees will even be competitive for the next few years. Because Baltimore is really good right now in the AL East, where a lot of these young teams have gotten better. Baltimore is really dangerous. For the Yankees to be competitive, because the Dodgers are lined up right now to be a dynasty. For the Yankees to be competitive, Juan Soto is a very, very important piece. You need to make that happen. So anyway, World Series is over. Dodgers won. Yankees didn't compete. I am so disappointed. All right? So that's my bow on the World Series, right? Tie it up. That's the bow that I put on the World Series. Now, let's talk about college football. College football is full swing. Oregon, best team in the country. They look great right now. It's crazy how bad people talk about Ryan Day. Ryan Day at Ohio State. Ohio State is 3 right now. Every year they're in the top 5. The fact that Urban Meyer won so much at such a high level has really hurt this guy because Ohio State has competed at such a high level under Ryan Day, but they expect him to be winning. But the Ohio State fan base is so unreasonable. You guys expect him to be in the national championship game every year, which is crazy. But that being the case, Oregon looks very, very, very good right now. Wow. What about the Miami Hurricanes? Are they back? Whoo, the Hurricanes look good now. They haven't played great competition yet. Let me say that. The ACC is terrible. The ACC is terrible. They beat, Duke, Louisville, mediocre teams. They almost lost to Cal. But the U is back, okay? Cristobal, I believe his name is the coach, Mario Cristobal, recruited great, and now they're bearing the fruits of that recruiting labor. They've had great recruiting classes the last few years, and they are looking really, really strong, really good. And they might have the Heisman Trophy candidate. Well, I think it's 2 guys that are leading in that race. You got Cam Ward, the quarterback for the Miami Hurricanes, who's having a phenomenal year. Maybe the first pick in the draft as well. And you also have Travis Hunter, right? The great 2-way player for Colorado. Great player. How about this? One week he was Offensive Player of the Week in the Big 12. The next week he was Defensive Player of the Week in the Big 12, or vice versa. When he was defense, second he was offense. That's amazing for a player to win Offensive Player one week and Defensive Player another week. That just shows his versatility and his dominance on both sides of the football. So I think it's going to be I think the Heisman is going to come down to those 2 players if things continue to play out like they played out. And the kid, Genty, the running back from Boise State, is having a phenomenal year as well. But Boise State, lesser team, not that great. I'm not sure he'll be in the Heisman race, but he'll be a pick high in the draft, right, coming up. And I hope my Dallas Cowboys get him because we need a running back very badly. But I think it'll be between Cam Ward and Travis Hunter. Shedeur Sanders is having a great year too, but not great enough. And then that brings me to to Colorado. I've been critical of Deion Sanders. I've been critical of Colorado, and they've had a good year thus far. Now, again, just like Miami, they've beat nobody, right? No top 25 teams, and the schedule has bode well for them. Okay, the games they played, the Baylors of the world, teams that people thought would be good teams are not. Okay, so they beat a lot of bad teams, but they have beat the teams that were in front of them. Okay. But this is my issue with Deion has always been the extracurriculum stuff. Okay. When so many other elements were impacting the football. And it's ironic. They were losing last year, and it was so much pageantry around the team, and he was doing all these interviews, and he was Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year, and all of this stuff around the program was happening. Okay. And it was the biggest thing was on 60 Minutes, and they were losing. Okay. And it's just ironic. When all of that quiets down, okay, and it's just about the football, we don't hear anything about Colorado right now. We don't hear about all the extracurricular activities and all the nonsense, okay? But what they're doing now is coming to work every day, okay, putting a hard hat on and doing what they're supposed to be doing as football players and beating what's in front of them, right? And they're winning, and guess what? They're not a circus, a sideshow, right? And we're not even talking about Colorado. So we talked about them crazy when all the shenanigans and all the nonsense is happening. They're winning right now, and we're not even talking about them because it's about the football and not about the other nonsense, right? So as I've been critical of them, Deion Sanders has rebounded well this year, and Colorado looks like a legitimate team. Now, do I think they'll get into the playoffs? I don't, but I still think this was definitely a progressive year for the program, even though they played nobody so far this year. Nobody. All right. But that being the case, they beat what's in front of them. All right. So that's my quick college football update. More to come, more great games coming. Let's see who makes the 12. We kind of, at the final hour, we're getting down to the last few games. And so now is when it gets really competitive, really good. Wins and losses really matter more now so than any other time in the year. Well, not any other time, but more so now than it's been in the past. With college football thus far. So, excited for a great finish on the college football front. And then let's do a quick NBA recap what's going on in the NBA. Out the gate, the Boston Celtics look great. We expected them to look great. They're playing like they have a chip on their shoulders. We know about all the offseason stuff with Tatum getting no burn with the Olympic team, with Jaylen Brown not making the Olympic team, and there was a big issue around that. And so the two superstars, right, two of the highest paid players in the league were snubbed. And so they came back into training camp with a chip on their shoulder. I mean, it clearly shows, but I'm going to tell you something. Watch out for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Oh my goodness. Talk about a team that's so balanced and so good. All right. Donovan Mitchell came back. Everybody thought he was out, but he re-signed, which I think was a surprise to a lot of people. Kenny Atchison, I think is the coach's name. Kenny, yeah. Anyway, he's doing a phenomenal job. The head coach, he coached the Nets for a few years, and now he's coaching Cleveland. He's coming in. I think he's done a really good job. But Darius Garland is not hurt or playing injured, etc. He seems to be healthy right now, and he's a very underrated guard. Him and Mitchell, great backcourt, a little undersized, but still phenomenal backcourt. They got great balance too, great bigs, right? I think we've finally seen Mobley, who great player, has taken the next step. So Mobley has played great. Jared Allen is very good. The bench is playing great. That's a very, very, very dangerous team. To me right now, the best two teams in the East, okay, Cleveland and Boston. Boston won, Cleveland too. And by the way, the Knicks are third, right? The jury's still out. The Karl-Anthony Towns trade. The Knicks, right now, the jury's still out. It's still early, but they don't look so great. But it takes time for chemistry, guys to mesh, etc. But right now, Boston and the Cavaliers look out of this world, okay? That being the case, by the way, before we get to the West, East, and Milwaukee, atrocious. It's time to blow it up. Dame Lillard was in Miami, didn't want to be there. His mom was in Miami when he told the Portland Trail Blazers to trade him to Miami. They didn't. They sent him to Milwaukee. He thought he was in Miami, ended up in Milwaukee. And he's playing like that, like he didn't want to be there. Atrocious. And this is another example of when organizations feel that you can just take players and put them together and not build teams, okay? So what the organization felt was you take a Hall of Famer and the top 75 player of all time in Dame Lillard, you take a Hall of Fame player and a top 75 player of all time with Antetokounmpo, you put them together and it's going to work. And sometimes it's not about that. Drew Holiday was a better fit for that team. So, people underestimate the importance of team building. It's not just taking pieces and slapping it together. It's taking pieces and putting a puzzle together and making sure the pieces fit and they work cohesively and they work together, okay? So I think at this point you got to blow it up. They were 30-13 when they fired Adrian Griffin. 30-13. And they brought in Doc Rivers, who's the biggest snake oil salesman in the world. He's the most overrated coach you can possibly imagine. They brought him in, and they've been atrocious ever since. I think they played 500 basketball for last year when Doc Rivers came in, and they've started off horribly this year. So Doc Rivers has been way worse for the team, right, than being an asset, right? And Griffin got fired at 30-13, so Antetokounmpo had to be a part of that. So let's not exonerate him from some responsibility too, because you got rid of this guy, okay, Griffin. You had to be a person that was advocating to get Lillard, and now it's not working. And so what happens? They got to blow it up. You trade Antetokounmpo, you trade Dame Lillard ultimately, and you get some draft picks and you rebuild. Because this is not going to work. You're not going to win a championship with these two guys. They don't mesh. They don't play well together. And listen, it's time for Antetokounmpo to go. He bought you a ring. He doesn't want to beat anymore probably either. He's still playing hard, but it's time for him to move on, get your picks. And ironically, this is the irony. He said there were two teams he would go to. Team one, he said he would go to, allegedly, Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Nets, which I don't understand that one. I guess being in the New York market, maybe, but then try to get to the Knicks somehow. Right? Try to get the Knicks to trade Karl Anthony Towns and some other players for Antetokounmpo, right? Like, don't play for the Nets. And the Miami Heat, which would be ironic if he went to the Miami Heat and Dame Lillard didn't go, because that's where Dame wanted to go. But in my opinion, Dame should go back to Portland, right? Be the Portland legend, and you're the greatest all-time player there, and finish out in Portland, right? You don't get your ring, I get it, but you had an illustrious Hall of Fame career, and you missed the Portland. Go back to that franchise. But anyway, the West, oh my goodness. The West, knew it wasn't great, but it really isn't great at all. The Denver Nuggets, everybody's pick. Everybody thinks the Denver Nuggets is going to win every year. They look terrible. Terrible. Not terrible, but not very good. Not like a championship quality team. Minnesota, we knew that was a flash in the pan, fake. Edwards is great, right? But OKC looks great, right? I picked OKC to go to the finals. OKC looks great. I think that's a very dangerous team. A bit young, as we know, but they look like the best team in the East right now, okay? Phoenix, flash in the pan. They're playing well right now. They're winning games, KD. But, you get to the playoffs, they won't win, okay? But OKC, they look good. And then we go about the Lakers. The Lakers come out the gate hot, and everybody's talking about how great J.J. Redick is. Then they got the sideshow with, like, Bronny James is being like the sideshow. People like, we want Bronny, and they're putting him in the games with 7 seconds left, which is crazy. I get it. They wanted him to play when he went back to Cleveland because his dad is from Cleveland. He was from Cleveland. Go send a kid to the G League and let him get better, right? Like, stop the side circus show. That's not what it's really all about. We know the kid doesn't deserve to be in the NBA. It is what it is. He's here now, okay? Now give him the proper tools, right? Stop the sideshow garbage, man. Like, come on, man. Let the kid go learn how to play the game, which we hope he does, and he becomes a productive NBA player at some point. But he's not there right now. But then anyway, the Lakers continue to implode, okay? You're not going to win the way you're currently configured. LeBron James is old. AD is playing relatively well, really well this year, okay? But you got the worst defensive backcourt in the NBA, right? Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell. That's the worst defensive backcourt in the NBA. And then you want now Anthony Davis to score all the points on this end and play all the defense on this end. Get a big man so AD can play the 4. He can roam. He can be a help side defender. He'll be defensive player of the year if you played him in that role and let him score, okay? It's unbelievable how bad the Lakers continue to be. They lost to the Pistons, who, are historically horrible over the last few years. Not historically, but over the last few years, they've been so bad. And so the Lakers are back at it again, right? Playing 500 basketball almost. I believe they're 4-3 right now. It's atrocious. But the West is wide open, okay? OKC, in my opinion, is the best team in the West. You got Cleveland and you got Boston in the East, but it's very early, very early. Just recapping a little bit, very early. But let's see how things continue to transpire as the season continues to happen. Those are some quick tidbits and things that are happening right now. Like, subscribe. Would love to hear your comments. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate you guys always showing love. And I'm out. Love.